Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak English Daily. This is your space to listen, to repeat, to shadow, and to learn English at a slow, natural pace. I'm Emma. Today, we're going to solve one of the biggest problems English learners face. You know what to say to start a conversation, but what happens when someone asks you a question? Do you freeze? Do you always say, I don't know? Or maybe just maybe or okay? Here's the truth. Native speakers use hundreds of different responses every single day. And when you only know 5 or 6 ways to respond, you sound robotic. You sound unsure. You sound like you're translating in your head. But not anymore. Today, you're going to learn 100 natural English responses that will make you sound confident, fluent, and genuinely engaged in every conversation. These aren't textbook phrases. These are the exact words native speakers use when they agree, disagree, show interest, express surprise, or simply keep a conversation flowing naturally. Before we dive in, I want you to get comfortable. Find yourself a nice cup of coffee, tea, or simply a glass of water. Choose a quiet, relaxing space where you can focus completely. Here's a powerful learning technique I want you to try. It's called response shadowing. As you listen today, imagine you're in real conversations. Picture yourself using these responses with real people, at work, with friends, in everyday situations. This simple visualization will help your brain absorb these phrases much faster and more effectively. Now, I'm going to encourage you to shadow along with me. That means listening and repeating everything I say, almost like you're my echo. But here's what's different today. You're going to repeat twice. Why twice? Because the first time, your brain is processing the sound and rhythm. The second time, your mouth is mastering the pronunciation. This is the secret to truly internalizing these phrases. When you repeat after me, you're training 3 things at once. Your mouth learns the correct movements. Your ears get familiar with natural pronunciation, and your brain starts to internalize these patterns automatically. Learners who practice this way tell me they can recall these responses naturally within just 1 week. Remember, don't worry about being perfect. If you can't keep up with every word, that's completely normal. Focus on the rhythm and sounds and let your mouth follow along naturally. These are simple, natural responses that will transform how you communicate in English, at work, with friends, with strangers, in any situation where you need to respond naturally and confidently. Today, we're using what I call the response mastery method. It's simple. Listen to the response, repeat it twice. Visualize using it in a real situation. That's it. Your brain will do the rest. It will start recognizing when to use each response. It will make these phrases feel natural and automatic. So, are you ready? Take a comfortable breath. Get ready to repeat after me. and let's begin this journey together. Let's change your English forever. Category 1. Agreeing. Let's start with one of the most important skills, showing agreement. Instead of always saying yes or I agree, native speakers use a beautiful variety of responses. These phrases show enthusiasm, support, and genuine agreement in different situations. Absolutely. Use this when you strongly agree with someone. Now you repeat. Absolutely. One more time. Absolutely. That sounds perfect. When someone suggests a plan and you love the idea, now you repeat, that sounds perfect. One more time. That sounds perfect. I'm all for it. Shows enthusiastic support for a suggestion. Now you repeat, I'm all for it. One more time. I'm all for it. Count me in. Perfect when agreeing to join an activity or plan. Now you repeat, count me in. One more time, count me in. You read my mind. When someone says exactly what you were thinking, now you repeat, you read my mind. One more time. You read my mind. I couldn't agree more. Strong agreement shows you feel the same way completely. Now you repeat, I couldn't agree more. One more time. I couldn't agree more. That works for me. Practical agreement about timing or plans. Now you repeat, that works for me. One more time. That works for me. I'm on board with that. Shows you support the idea or plan. Now you repeat, I'm on board with that. One more time, I'm on board with that. You've got my vote. Informal way to show support for an idea. Now you repeat, you've got my vote. One more time, you've got my vote. I'm down for that. Casual, friendly agreement, perfect with friends. Now you repeat, I'm down for that. One more time, I'm down for that. Category 2, disagreeing politely. Now, here's where many English learners struggle. How do you disagree without being rude? Native speakers have elegant ways to express different opinions while maintaining respect and friendliness. These phrases are gold. Master them, and you'll handle any disagreement gracefully. I see what you mean, but acknowledges their point before presenting yours. Now you repeat. I see what you mean, but. One more time. I see what you mean, but. I'm not so sure about that. Gentle way to express doubt or disagreement. Now you repeat, I'm not so sure about that. One more time. I'm not so sure about that. That's one way to look at it. Diplomatic response when you see things differently. Now you repeat. That's one way to look at it. One more time. That's one way to look at it. I have a different perspective. Professional way to introduce your viewpoint. Now you repeat, I have a different perspective. One more time. I have a different perspective. I respectfully disagree. Formal and polite disagreement. Now you repeat, I respectfully disagree. One more time. I respectfully disagree. I see your point, however, shows understanding before adding your opinion. Now you repeat. I see your point, however. One more time. I see your point, however. That's interesting, but I think. Gentle transition to your different opinion. Now you repeat. That's interesting, but I think. One more time. That's interesting, but I think. I'm not entirely convinced. Polite way to express skepticism. Now you repeat. I'm not entirely convinced. One more time. I'm not entirely convinced. I have some reservations. Professional way to express concerns. Now you repeat. I have some reservations. One more time. I have some reservations. Let me play devil's advocate. Introduces an opposing viewpoint for discussion. Now you repeat, let me play devil's advocate. One more time. Let me play devil's advocate. Category 3. When you don't know. This is the category that will change your life. Never say, I don't know again. Instead, use these professional, confident alternatives. These responses show intelligence and honesty without making you sound uncertain or unhelpful. That's a great question. Eyes your time while acknowledging their question. Now you repeat. That's a great question. One more time. That's a great question. I'd need to look into that. Professional way to say, you don't currently know. Now you repeat, I'd need to look into that. One more time. I'd need to look into that. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Honest response. That sounds natural and confident. Now you repeat. I'm not sure off the top of my head. One more time. I'm not sure off the top of my head. Let me get back to you on that. Professional promise to find the answer. Now you repeat. Let me get back to you on that. One more time. Let me get back to you on that. I haven't thought about it that way. Shows openness to new perspectives. Now you repeat. I haven't thought about it that way. One more time. I haven't thought about it that way. I'm not the best person to ask. Honest redirect to someone more knowledgeable. Now you repeat. I'm not the best person to ask. One more time. I'm not the best person to ask. That's outside my area. Professional way to acknowledge your limits. Now you repeat. That's outside my area. One more time. That's outside my area. I wish I knew. Friendly, honest response, showing you'd like to help. Now you repeat. I wish I knew. One more time. I wish I knew. Your guess is as good as mine. Casual way to share uncertainty. Now you repeat. Your guess is as good as mine. One more time. Your guess is as good as mine. I'd need to double check that. Professional way to say. You'll verify the information. Now you repeat. I'd need to double check that. One more time. I'd need to double check that. Category 4. Showing interest. This is the secret to being a great conversationalist. When you show genuine interest, people love talking to you. These responses keep conversations flowing naturally and make the other person feel heard and valued. Tell me more. Perfect for encouraging someone to continue their story. Now you repeat. Tell me more. One more time. Tell me more. That's fascinating. Shows enthusiasm about what they're sharing. Now you repeat. That's fascinating. One more time. That's fascinating. I'd love to hear about that. Invites them to share more details. Now you repeat. I'd love to hear about that. One more time. I'd love to hear about that. What happened next? Keeps the story moving forward. Now you repeat. What happened next? One more time. What happened next? How did that work out? shows interest in the outcome. Now you repeat, how did that work out? One more time. How did that work out? That must have been empathetic response, showing you understand their feelings. Now you repeat. That must have been. One more time. That must have been. I've always wondered about that. Connects their story to your own curiosity. Now you repeat, I've always wondered about that. One more time. I've always wondered about that. Walk me through it. Asks for detailed explanation. Now you repeat, walk me through it. One more time, walk me through it. That's so interesting. Simple but effective way to show engagement. Now you repeat, that's so interesting. One more time, that's so interesting. I'm all ears. Means you're fully listening and ready to hear more. Now you repeat, I'm all ears. One more time, I'm all ears. Category 5, giving opinions. Expressing your thoughts confidently is crucial for meaningful conversations. These phrases help you share your opinions without sounding aggressive or uncertain. They're perfect for discussions, meetings, or friendly debates. In my opinion, classic way to introduce your viewpoint. Now you repeat, in my opinion. One more time, in my opinion. From my perspective, professional way to share your view. Now you repeat, from my perspective. One more time, from my perspective. The way I see it. Natural way to introduce your interpretation. Now you repeat, the way I see it. One more time, the way I see it. If you ask me. Casual way to offer your opinion. Now you repeat, if you ask me. One more time, if you ask me. Personally, I think. Emphasizes this is your personal view. Now you repeat, personally, I think. One more time, personally, I think. I'd say that. Confident way to state your opinion. Now you repeat, I'd say that. One more time, I'd say that. My take on this is modern, conversational way to share your view. Now you repeat, my take on this is. One more time. My take on this is, I tend to believe. Softer way to express your belief. Now you repeat. I tend to believe. One more time. I tend to believe. Based on my experience. Grounds your opinion in personal knowledge. Now you repeat, based on my experience. One more time, based on my experience. I'm inclined to think. Thoughtful way to share your leaning opinion. Now you repeat, I'm inclined to think. One more time. I'm inclined to think. Amazing progress. Part 1 complete. Take a deep breath. You just practiced 50 powerful English responses. Let's recap what you've mastered today. 10 ways to agree enthusiastically. 10 ways to disagree politely. 10 professional alternatives to I don't know. 10 ways to show genuine interest. 10 ways to express your opinions confidently. These 50 responses alone will transform how you communicate in English. You're no longer limited to yes, no, or I don't know. Here's what I want you to do. Choose your favorite 10 responses from today. Write them down. Say them out loud each morning. Then, try to use at least 3 of them in real conversations this week. At work, with friends, even practicing by yourself. The secret is this. You don't need to master all 50 at once. Start with 10. Practice them until they feel natural. Within just a few weeks, these responses will flow automatically. But we're not done yet. We still have 50 more powerful responses to learn. In part 2, coming next week, you'll master how to respond to compliments gracefully, how to show empathy when someone shares bad news, how to express surprise naturally, how to handle uncertainty professionally, how to end conversations warmly. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss part 2. We're building something incredible together. I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, which response was your favorite from today? Which one will you use this week? When you write it down, you're making a commitment. And I'll be there reading every comment, cheering you on. We're building a community of confident English speakers here. You're not alone in this journey. Before we close, remember this. Every fluent English speaker you admire started exactly where you are right now. They practiced. They made mistakes, but they kept going. You showed up today. You practiced 50 responses. You invested in yourself. That's something to be proud of. These responses are now in your mind, ready to use. Trust them. They're yours now. This is Speak English Daily, and I'm Emma. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Your English is getting better every single day. Every conversation is progress. Every response is a victory. I'll see you in part 2, where we'll complete your journey to 100 responses. Until then, keep speaking English daily. You've got this. Thanks for watching.